Shalom, everyone. Today, let's talk about the indoctrination system. What is the indoctrination system? The indoctrination system is the public schooling system that begins with preschool, kindergarten, and goes all the way up through the university level, the highest levels, master's, doctorate programs. That is the indoctrination program. This is a very effective mechanism for indoctrinating and controlling people's minds under this fourth beast New World Order system. If not the most effective, it is certainly, I would say, in the top two. It is absolutely necessary for a system that masquerades as an education, but to really be very sophisticated and clever satanic indoctrination into serving this system of mammon. This must be in place in order for people not to believe in Yahuwah, not to come to Yahushua, not to call on his name correctly, these sorts of things. Let's get into it. Okay. Noam Chomsky, he wrote a book called The Common Good. In this he wrote, "The smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but to allow very lively debate within that spectrum." That is exactly how a system such as this works. I mean, I went to college. I've been through the whole school system. I got a bachelor's degree in 1994 from the University of South Carolina in psychology. Now, I did not realize it at the time. I knew that something was wrong, but I did not know what. I knew that matters, spiritual matters, were just simply completely left out of the so-called education while I was in college. I did not know why. I was looking into a lot of stuff at the time, stuff like near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, a lot of stuff about parapsychology. And I just knew that something was wrong. And I knew that there was what was being promoted and what is promoted and what has been promoted from the U.S. education system and worldwide is simply materialism. We're taught that evolution is basically absolute fact. We're taught that outer space exists, all these sorts of things. Now I realize completely differently. Okay, to go to Chomsky's quote, this is absolutely very effective. I mean, this works within the media very well. You just encourage lively debate within certain parameters. And the things that basically in the education system, there are many things that are taught that are true. However, the truth is not taught. And that's the whole point. There are many subjects that a person can go to college and study. And this gives the appearance of genuine education. And there's so much depth to these subjects and to these classes and big, fat, thick textbooks and just, you know, enormous sprawling campuses, which just gives the impression that, yes, this system wants to educate its youth so that they can grow up to be productive citizens and that the United States can compete with other nations on the world stage and, you know, we can have good people. However, morality isn't taught at all. Good and evil isn't taught at all. It's the promotion of materialism. It is, without people realizing it, it is the promotion of mammon. You are taught to believe in and serve the system that is in place, this fourth beast New World Order satanic system of mammon. That is what people are taught without having any idea that that's what they're being taught while they're in college. Here's another quote. This is by Johann Wolfgang. The last name, I believe, is pronounced Goethe. It is spelled Goethe. This is a pretty famous person. He was a German poet, playwright, novelist, and philosopher. He is quoted as, I'm not sure if he said this or if he wrote this. This is a fairly famous quote, though. None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe that they are free. Exactly. Likewise, none are more hopelessly indoctrinated than those who believe that they are educated or that they are receiving an education. Here's a quote by Mark Twain, very similar. It is easier to fool people than to convince them that they've been fooled. Definitely, people are filled with ego. They don't like to admit that they've been duped or fooled. Okay, so likewise, it is easier to indoctrinate and brainwash an entire population than to convince people that they have been indoctrinated, especially if they have invested time and money to go through university, to go to college, and to work hard, to study, to try to get decent grades, to go out and get a decent job so they could, they can raise a family, they can pay bills, and they can be a quote-unquote respectable member of society, whatever it may be. However, you try to tell them, hey, guess what? This entire system is false. You show them all sorts of evidence, they don't want to hear it. Generally, the further that people go along, the further that people advance, so to speak, within the so-called education system, the indoctrination system, the further that they go along, say bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctorate level, the less likely they are to receive information such as this, that this is very clever and sophisticated indoctrination, and that what it really is, at its core, is satanic indoctrination into serving, believing in the system of mammon. And many times people will defend this system of mammon with all their heart, mind, and soul, when what they really should be doing is serving Yahuwah with all their heart, mind, and soul. Okay, so this fourth beast system is described in a few places in the Bible. This system that we live under now, I'm going to read a quote from 2nd Baruch. Quoted this in another video just recently regarding the police being servants of the New World Order fourth beast system. This is from 2nd Baruch. Now, Baruch was a scribe of the prophet Jeremiah. He is introduced in the Standard Canon in chapter 36 of the book of Jeremiah. And so the book of 2nd Baruch would be found in the so-called Apocrypha. It can be found in the Sefer, sefer.net, CEPHER.net. Recommend getting a Sefer. It's got all the books of the Standard Canon and then 22 extra biblical books. And this is that quote. This is from 2nd Baruch, chapter 39, verses 5 through 7. And after these things, a fourth kingdom will arise, whose power will be harsh and evil, far beyond those which were before it. And it will rule many times as the forests on the plain. And it will hold fast for times, and will exalt itself more than the cedars of Lebanon. And by it the truth will be hidden. Now, this is the truth of the word that is hidden. Hence, this is why we're taught things like evolution, rather than there is a mighty, omniscient, omnipotent, and loving creator named Yahuwah. Okay, by it the truth will be hidden, and all those who are polluted with iniquity will flee to it, as evil beasts flee and creep into the forest. And it will come to pass when the time of its consummation, that it should fall, has approached, then the principate or kingdom of my Mashiach will be revealed, which is like the fountain and the vine, and when it is revealed, it will root out the multitude of its host. Now, the reason why I shared these verses is I just simply wanted to show it is written in the Word that by this system, the system that is in place, the fourth beast, the fourth kingdom, by it the truth will be hidden. This so-called education system, this indoctrination system, is but one aspect of this fourth beast system on the earth now. But it is a very essential aspect or system within this fourth beast, because people's minds absolutely have to be controlled in order to destroy the heart, mind, and soul of man, Yahuwah's creation, and that is the whole point. This is not simply about the consolidation of wealth, power, or controlling people. It is about evil. It is about destroying you. So our minds and our hearts, our souls must be destroyed. And that's what this is. That's what this is really about. Now I want to read a quote by, this is Sun Tzu from The Art of War. This is really important. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. The point of this is, if you don't know your enemy, if you do not know that there is an enemy working against mankind, you will be deceived without any doubt. The indoctrination system is a very, very sophisticated mechanism used to implement this deception, because it appears on the surface, it appears to be education. So many different subjects are studied in depth. However, parameters are put on what can be discussed in college, and the truth is not what is taught. So I would say, for a person who believes that they are educated, but they are really truly indoctrinated, do they really know themselves? No. I mean, if they believe that they're educated and yet they're indoctrinated, they do not know the enemy either. And these kind of people will fall for every deception that this incredibly evil and deceptive system has to offer. Here's another quote. This is by an American journalist who died in 1956. His name was Henry Louis Mencken, H.L. Mencken. Last name is spelled M-E-N-C-K-E-N. He is quoted as saying, "The aim of public education is not to spread enlightenment at all. It is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same safe level, to breed and train a standardized citizenry, to put down dissent and originality. That is the aim in the United States. Whatever the pretensions of politicians, pedagogues, and other mountebanks," and the definition of a mountebank is a person who deceives others. So, whatever the pretensions of politicians, pedagogues, and other mountebanks, and that is the aim everywhere else. H.L. Mencken. Now, this is there was a document that was put together in the 1940s, and it is known as Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Now, I've been following a little bit of this, watching the StopTheCrime.net YouTube channel. Deborah Tavares, just an absolutely dynamite, fantastic researcher. She has brought out a lot of information on this. There are other videos on YouTube regarding this document. I believe that there was one where a person simply reads the whole thing for you. This is a blueprint for enslavement. It is an operations and technical manual put together in the 40s. According to Deborah Tavares, it was put together by the Rockefellers, Harvard University, the Air Force, and the international bankers. Now, I believe that there are elements within these institutions that put this together, but this is the so-called ruling class. There are a few thousand people that run this world and implement policy of all sorts, including everything that can and cannot be taught in the so-called education system worldwide. So here is something that is quoted from this very document. This is written by the slave masters, so to speak. This is straight from, these are their own words regarding education. "The quality of education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, so that the mote of ignorance isolating the inferior class from the superior class is and remains incomprehensible to the inferior class. With such an initial handicap, even the bright lower class individuals have little, if any, hope of extricating themselves from their assigned lot in life. This form of slavery is essential to maintain some measure of social order, peace, and tranquility for the ruling upper class. Now, when it refers to the lower class or the inferior class, that is the masses. That is the 99+% of people in this world. That is the lower class. This is not the ghetto that they're referring to here. This is you and this is me. And this is what they, and I believe this. I mean, this is very accurate. I believe that. Think about that. The education that is meant to be given is meant to instill an ignorance that remains incomprehensible. People do not even have any idea, just like what was quoted earlier. None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who believe that they are free. None are more hopelessly indoctrinated than those who really and truly believe that they have been educated. And of course, once you go through the education system and attain this or that degree and you're out and you've got your status in society and so forth, it's very difficult to admit you've been duped. There's pride involved there. And what was Satan's biggest sin? Pride. Okay. So, with such an initial handicap, even the bright lower class individuals have little, if any, hope of extricating themselves from their assigned lot in life. Wow. I mean, this system is extremely deceptive. So, I encourage anybody listening to this, study, study, study. Seek the truth. Seek Yahuwah now. Seek the truth with all your heart, mind, and soul. Do not seek the system of mammon with all your heart, mind, and soul and then defend it. That is a losing proposition. Now, there's a very outspoken person regarding the U.S. education system. His name is John Taylor Gatto. I believe he's still alive. He taught for 30 years in the state of New York. He was the Teacher of the Year in New York City in 1989, 1990, and 1991. He was also the Teacher of the Year for the state of New York in 1991. He wrote 2 books. He wrote a book called Dumbing Us Down, The Hidden Curriculum of Compulsory Schooling, and also The Underground History of American Education, a school teacher's intimate investigation into the problem of modern schooling. He is quoted. I'm gonna give 3 quotes by Mr. Gatto here. Here's the first one. Slowly, I began to realize that the bells and the confinement, the crazy sequences, the age segregation, the lack of privacy, the constant surveillance, and all the rest of the national curriculum of schooling were designed exactly as if someone had set out to prevent children from learning how to think and act, to coax them into addiction and dependent behavior. Now that is key. Preventing children from learning how to think and act. This system teaches us what to think, not how to think. And then it turns around and tells you that you're being taught critical thinking skills. So people who talk about things or believe in things that are not taught in the school system believe that you are the one who doesn't possess critical thinking skills because it doesn't fall within the parameters of what this system teaches. This system does not teach us how to think. It teaches us what to think within certain parameters only. And that is how the truth is hidden. There's another quote by Mr. Gatto. Government schooling made people dumber, not brighter, made families weaker, ruined formal religion with its hard sell exclusion of God, set the class structure in stone by dividing children into classes and setting them against one another, and has been midwife to an alarming concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a fraction of the national community. Now, this is probably the one that is the most hard-hitting and meaningful, at least to me it is. One of the first things a family tries to teach its children is the difference between good and evil, right and wrong. One of the first things our schools do is destroy that distinction. How about that? Now, this is coming from a man, like I said, 3 times Teacher of the Year, New York City. 1 time Teacher of the Year, New York State, 1991. This man would know what he's talking about. He's either lost his mind or he knows exactly what he's talking about. So why? Why is this system in place, ultimately? I mean, there is an endless amount of things that can be discussed regarding this beast system, regarding this New World Order. But ultimately, why is this system in place, and what is this about? Luke chapter 4, verses 5 and 6. And the devil, taking him up on a high mountain, showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. And the devil said to him, All this authority I shall give you, and their esteem, for it has been delivered unto me, and I give it to whomever I wish. Now, this is Satan speaking to Yahuwah, as if he should bow down to him, and then I will give you all the kingdoms of the world. Now, yes, it has been delivered unto him for a time, but that is the point. People are not taught in this system that verse, or that is actually true. There's no investigation into that matter. Is that really true? It has been delivered unto me. Yeah, it's true. It's true for a time. 1 John chapter 5, verse 19. We know that we are of Yahuwah, and all the world lies in the wicked one. You're not taught anything about the world lying in the wicked one. We're not taught anything other than materialism and mammon, and that's what you are to believe in. And if you don't believe in that, and if you don't want to serve that, then you are an outcast. And we are social beings. We want to be accepted and to be shunned, to be thought of as weirdo because you're not going along with the system. People want to belong, okay? So they don't want to question the system. They want to go right along with it. And that, what is that? That's James 4:4, friendship with the world. That's hostility or enmity with Yahuwah, as it is written. But that is something that the vast majority of people want and that they strive for, is friendship with the world. So they want to go along. They want to fit in. They want to go to school. They want to, attain some sort of status and make money and belong and so forth. And people think that that's what is important. And it seems like it's important on the surface of things. I mean, I have experienced these things in my life before, but now I know what is important is following Yahuwah, is following the word of Yahuwah with all your heart, mind, and soul. That is what's important. Okay, Matthew 6:24. No one is able to serve 2 masters, for either he shall hate the one and love the other, or else he shall cleave to one and despise the other. You are not able to serve Yahuwah and mammon. That's the whole point. This is exactly, how many times have I said this? That is what this system, the indoctrination system, is about. Ultimately, that's all it's about. You are being taught, you're being programmed, conditioned, brainwashed. Your mind is being destroyed, not opened, not enlightened. You are being programmed to believe in and serve the satanic system of mammon. That is what it's about. You are taught that attaining a degree, being educated within the school system, that is, although it's not used, the word wisdom is not used very often, but that is worldly wisdom. And that is what is being referred here in 1 Corinthians 3:19. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with Yahuwah. For it has been written, He catches the wise in their craftiness. Now that's a quote from the book of Job. He catches the wise in their craftiness. But that's the point. What people are being taught from the indoctrination system is worldly wisdom. And ultimately, that is nothing but foolishness. It will bear no fruit. We are not taught this in the indoctrination system. Ephesians 6:12. Because we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against authorities, against the world rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Again, that's Ephesians 6:12, very commonly known verse. But we are not taught that. We are not taught that such a thing as the spirit world exists. So therefore, if you were not taught that these things even exist, and people who talk about them or people who believe in them are shunned, that is very effective psychological and spiritual warfare implemented through this so-called education system. Daniel 7:23. We are not taught about this. We are not taught what this means. This is what he said. The fourth beast is the fourth kingdom on earth, which is different from all other kingdoms, and it devours all the earth, tramples it down, and crushes it. People are not taught. You are living under that right now. So, how would someone describe that system if they were living under it? How would a man describe that system? I propose it as this. Former Congressman Lawrence Patton McDonald. He went to war with what he knew was evil and wrong, and that is this system. He was murdered for it on a plane flight in 1983 on a big jet. And then that flight was Korean Air 007. Seriously, you cannot make this up. The flight that he was on was Flight 007. Lawrence Patton McDonald. He said, the drive of the Rockefellers and their allies is to create a one-world government, combining supercapitalism and communism under the same tent, all under their control. Do I mean conspiracy? Yes, I do. I am convinced there is such a plot, international in scope, generations old in planning, and incredibly evil in intent. Former Congressman Lawrence Patton McDonald. Now, spiritual warfare described in Ephesians 6:12, and what is described in Daniel 7:23. This beast is different from all the other kingdoms that were before it. It devours all the earth, tramples it down, and crushes it. Spiritual wickedness in high places would implement a system that is international in scope, just like Mr. McDonald described. Generations old in planning. There must be spiritual elements behind something like that. For people are too selfish to implement something on their own for it to be carried forward over generations. We are simply pawns in the game, in this game of spiritual warfare, being used to not believe in our Creator, to not know Messiah's name, that sort of thing. It is incredibly evil in intent, according to Mr. McDonald. Incredibly evil in intent. It devours all the earth, tramples it down, and crushes it. That sounds like something very evil in intent. Deuteronomy chapter 6, 6 through 8. And these words which I am commanding you today. Now, before I get into this, the Ten Commandments are reiterated in Deuteronomy chapter 5, first introduced in Exodus chapter 20. So here's the very next chapter, Deuteronomy 6. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. Now right there, that is saying, the seal and mark of Yahuwah as a sign on your hand, and as frontlets between your eyes, in your forehead, is meditating on His commandments and doing them in the book of Deuteronomy. This indoctrination system, you go through it, you will never even think about this. It will never even occur to you to read the Torah. Because even if you are a believer in Jesus and you go to church on Sundays and so forth, they do not study the Torah. So that is another aspect of this beast system. If you do not know your enemy, in this case, this enemy is very, very deceptive and very powerful. And without Yahushua, we have no chance against such spiritual warfare. So through this system, through the indoctrination system, you're never going to think about what the mark, what Yahuwah's mark is. No, you're never even going to believe in him. You're never even going to think about it, according to John Taylor Gatto. Okay? New York State Teacher of the Year, 1991. You're never even going to think about it because it's not discussed at all. It's like it's a given that evolution is true. Like this is the most established tenet, in this whole system. The whole so-called education system promotes that, without any question whatsoever. Psalm 1, 1 and 2. Blessed is the man who shall not walk in the counsel of the wrong, and shall not stand in the path of sinners, and shall not sit in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the Torah of Yahuwah, and he meditates in his Torah day and night. Okay, again, who is going to have delight in the Torah of Yahuwah or meditate in his Torah day and night if they believe in the system, this schooling system that they have gone through? The purpose of it is so that you will never even know this verse or even think it'll never enter your mind to meditate in his Torah day and night. Now this is from the book of Sirach. I have the next 4 verses are from the book of Sirach. Sirach is another one out of the Sefer. It's a very good book of wisdom. It is like Proverbs, except I believe that it is stronger meat. Sirach chapter 6, verse 37. Let your mind be upon the ordinances of Yahuwah, and meditate continually in his commandments. He shall establish your heart and give you wisdom at your own desire. Okay, you meditate on his commandments and do them, he will set things right. He will establish your heart, and he will give you wisdom at your own desire. Not this worldly wisdom, not this false version of wisdom that is taught in this indoctrination system. Sirach 39, verse 1. But he that gives his mind to the Torah of El Elyon, the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies. So in other words, he that gives his mind to the Torah of El Elyon, the Most High Yahuwah, then he will seek out true knowledge and true wisdom, not false worldly wisdom. Sirach chapter 1, verse 1. All wisdom comes from Yahuwah and is with him forever. Okay, all wisdom comes from him. Okay, this version of wisdom that is taught in the indoctrination system, you're being taught, you're receiving education, you're receiving knowledge, you're receiving essentially wisdom, how to operate in this world. But again, all wisdom comes from Yahuwah. That's it. That's all there is to it. Sirach 1, 26. If you desire wisdom, guard the commandments, and Yahuwah shall give her unto you. Now, purpose of this system, you're never even going to think about guarding his commandments. It's never going to enter your mind because you're going to be too busy, wrapped up, and consumed by the system of mammon that you believe in if you go through the indoctrination system and believe it. One last verse I'd like to leave you with. It's Isaiah 55, 6. And by the way, I'm going to leave this verse. I plan on leaving this particular verse in the description box below, along with links to what I believe are the quintessential teachings on the Father's name and the Son's name. The links for that and this verse is going to be in the description box below. Seek Yahuwah while he is to be found. Call on him while he is near. Hallelujah. Okay. Thanks for listening.